Hey everyone, Brad Clements back again. Today I'm talking about the book Yes and. It's by Kelly Leonard and Yorton. They both work at a place called Second City. It's in Chicago. What it is like it's a they have improv, theaters. I mean, I guess you could call it a theater business, and I mean, that's where they found themselves from, but they go further than that and they actually create improv style videos to teach business lessons such as satiristic HR, etc., etc. So that way it brings a little bit of humor into what could be a dry subject. So again, that's the book Yes and it's lessons from the Second City. So I know what we're thinking. Improv is just simply, comedy. It's, make up comedy on the spot. And that's exactly what I thought going into this book. But after reading through it, there's more to it than just that. And they talk about how improv is the ability to think on your feet. And more importantly, the ability to listen, but listen with all of your energy. They go through and talk about how listening is a vital part of our, society of today's world. With, some like 65 to 75%, I think they said it was, amount of communications actually listened to, it's a verbal cue. However, they also mentioned that only 25% of what is heard is actually retained and actually acknowledged. Those are staggering statistics in my opinion. I mean, the fact of the matter is that if you listen to this video, for instance, if it's a 10-minute video, you're only going to retain 2 some minutes of it. It's really not that good, and that's even if you're paying attention, right? So you have to actually fully envelop yourself into what it is you're trying to learn and who it is you're trying to listen to. So I'm going to go briefly through what the book is about, a little chapter by chapter like I do normally, and then talk about the key points that I thought and that I've taken away from it. So let's get right into it. So they go into talking about that anytime it's a serious situation, whether it's business or some family friend thing, whatever it may be, humor and comedy can always be a component within it to lighten the mood and to make you feel, to make others feel more, accepting of you and to make you appear more human. So that can be as simple as, if you've ever been to a had to give a presentation, or had to give like a speech, they always talk about opening up with a joke, right? And that's you don't necessarily have to do a straight like knock joke or something like that. But the concept holds true is that if you can show that you have some humor, it makes you seem more human and people are more welcome and ready to listen to you, learn from you, and just overarching, participate in whatever it is you're trying to talk, sell, do, etc. And the reason is they don't just see you on a pedestal anymore. If you're the one giving the speech, at first you're the one that's like the almighty, so to speak. And there's no way that you can do wrong or mess up, but if you can, throw a little bit of properly timed and acceptable humor and comedy into it, then it's a good way to break that ice and make, or have others that are around you and listening to you actually, truly listen, because now they want to be engaged, not just be there. So that's a big component of this book, but let's go forward. As the title says, Yes and. That is one of the leading chapters in this book. It's one of the first ones, and it's a super important point. And what that means is when you're listening to people and talking in the idea stage, the creation stage, we have to get rid of the word no. Whenever someone has an idea, let's say you're trying to figure out, taking one of my marketing things right now, we were trying to find a way to make an awareness campaign, a tangible one that's actually in the real world. If my partner came up and said he wanted to do he's like, I have an idea for an awareness campaign, I want to do something with ice cream cones. I can't just say no. That's not to say that I have to accept every idea, but what that means is I have to say yes and then that gives a chance for him or whoever else is in our, in our group, in our ensemble there, to think about what it is and build on that idea. And what that means is you never just shut something down. Everyone's given a chance to talk, everyone's given a chance to acknowledge and fully put out what they're feeling and thinking, and it's in a safe place where they know they're not just gonna get shot down. And they know that no matter what the idea is, it's not gonna be a crippling effect to their career or to what people think of them. And they go through this book to explain that a big reason that is a part of it is because the expectation isn't necessarily for everyone to bring a fully formed idea. They make reference that you don't have to bring a cathedral, you just need to bring a brick. And if everyone brings a brick, then they are able to create that cathedral. And because of that, it'll be stronger than if someone just has one idea that's the idea. Because more often than not, it's not. The concept that if everyone brings a brick and builds on each other, then that's where you find the great ideas. Now, we're not talking group compromise. We're not saying you need or you should dampen down or, lessen the idea to make it something that everyone agrees on. But what this does mean is that you're able to go through the nitty-gritty, you discuss it, you think about it, and then, again, build upon each other. That's where that yes and comes in. Kelly and Tom do explain, though, that just because you're yes-anding and you're not putting other people down, you're actually giving them a time of day and, acknowledging them and fully listening to them. That doesn't mean to say you shouldn't have that final person with that final say. There are times where the idea after the creative stage, when we're not just brainstorming, if it's a bad idea, it needs to be shut down. During the creative stage of brainstorming, there's no bad ideas. There's some that might be better, but the bad ideas can probably still be incorporated with the good ideas to make something great. Just because they're bad alone doesn't mean they're not contributory to something else. But in the long run, don't just yes and your way to a subpar product or service. You need to still ensure that it is quality and it matches your company culture or your personal culture and belief system and value system, depending on what it is you're trying to decide for. But part of that then comes from the concept of the ensemble. And they describe that as being a group of people that are working, using their individual talents to help match each other's weaknesses, so that way the strengths cancel out, and are working towards a common goal and a common purpose, and not just in competition with each other. It's different than a committee, because committees are bureaucratic and have lots of red tape that, it's more of a argument to get something done where someone has to win and others have to lose, whereas an ensemble, you're working together. And you're working together to create that one goal, or to, that has if you're talking a company, you have your company mission, you have your company vision, and everything the ensemble does is in accordance with that vision, and then, follows that mission. You're trying to reach that vision by following that mission. So they all know their purpose, they all know their values, they all have their, understanding and camaraderie together. So there's no competition. They're willing to collaborate, they're willing to back each other, and that's important when you're trying to have free-flowing ideas. People need to feel safe and trusted, so if they understand that, what they say won't get them condemned, won't get them blackballed, won't hurt their career or their persona, then they're much more willing to put their creative juices out there and show their creative weirdness. And that's where you can really spark some brilliance. So when building that ensemble, when building that team, it's important that you find people that match what you're looking for. They don't have to be identical to you. In fact, you don't want that. You would want some diversity in your team so you can get different ideas, different life variants, different backgrounds, so you can actually merge together to make the best non-just polarized decision. But that does mean that you should find people that have the same value set. If your company is that has values that revolve around trust, openness, honesty, and integrity, you need people that follow those same values. So that way any idea, any product, any service that's put forward follows those same values as well. They do talk about co-creating, and in the essence, they co-create with their audience. They let audience in on the last part of the act when they're in practice performance for free, so that way they can try out different improv parts and see what works best, see how people react, and they can tinker and tweak from there. If you're in a business sense, you could do that with surveys. You can add both impromptu as well as more direct and actually professionalized. But yeah, much more of a concerned effort versus just going out there and asking without much consideration. You can talk to current customers, you can focus group potential customers, vendors, you can talk to anybody. And you can, with social media now, you can put a lot of different things out there to see how people react. And the neat thing is, if you work with them instead of having to come with that entire idea, then there's less chance that it'll be a failure, because you already understand and went through the little points Again, talking about that bringing a brick, not the full cathedral. If the cathedral you make, the idea you have is the business is also grandiose in your eyes, but then you bring it to market and no one likes it, that's a lot of time, effort, and money, energy, resources that could be thrown to waste. But if you're building it with your potential audience, your potential client base, include them along each step. If let's say the first 5 bricks you bring that you present, they like, brick 6 they don't like, all you have to do now is throw out that brick, not the entire plan, not the entire idea. And sometimes you'll get bricks from them that you didn't even expect. Take for instance with my martial arts stuff. I might think I have this, I want to do for my beginner curriculum, I want to have self-defense, and my, form, and some combos, right? And then I, put it out there, do some focus classes, and I realize that they want to include some bag sparring. I might never have thought of that. So because they like that, because they brought that brick forward and I like it too, I incorporate it. So now I have combos, form, self-defense, and bag sparring. Let's say I include another brick that's weapons, but it's not well received. I tried it out, and if it wasn't well received, I can take it back away. And instead of scrapping the entire curriculum, it's simply just that component within it. So I think that's a very important concept there, that, again, just because a part of the idea is bad or isn't accepted doesn't mean the entire idea needs to be trashed. And that's really where it comes in, that not all failure is fatal, right? We have to be willing to take chances, because when you go forward with confidence, that's when you have the opportunity to succeed. Everything has risk, everything has a chance for reward. It's balancing the two. So it's all about striving through the failures, right? Not getting set back, and pursuing during the good times. Again, if something happens, if there's a setback, don't give up. Again, it's not failure unless you quit, unless you give up entirely. You might not have worked out in that moment, but you can learn from it, grow from it, and improve on it. And that's a big thing there, that once you put forward an idea, once you implement it and actually try it, you need to have a debriefing to talk with your same ensemble to see what's working well, what's not working the best, what can be improved, what should stay the same. And that's how you can perpetually grow your company, your business, and that idea. They all then go on to talk about following the follower, which is the idea that leaders need to put others first. That if you want to be a true leader and you want people to actually follow you, you have to be willing to, give up some control. That means you can't be the one dictating all the decisions. If you're the producer they talk about and wanting X play to happen, you have to give full control to the director and the actors that within it, and then not interfere. Show up when the director says it's okay to, so that way you don't influence the decisions being made. It can be a scary thought for some. Some others might be easier, but it's leading with that empathy, treating others how you want to be treated, and just understanding that the more freedom you give the highly trained personnel that you may have taken onto your ensemble, the better odds are that you're going to get good response. When you give people the freedom to, create, the freedom to produce without fear of just, being knocked out if something goes wrong, that gives them a chance to actually, try. The risk is lower, which means their reward that they can give you is higher because they're not as concerned of what happens to them if something goes wrong. It really is an interesting concept. It's something we've touched upon in other videos from other books, so I'm not going to go too much more into it, but I do want to finish up with the last part they put in there, and something I brought up at the beginning, which was the listening. They consider listening a muscle, meaning the more you use it, the better it gets. It's just like doing push-ups. If you want to get to 100 push-ups a day, you're gonna have to start out doing maybe 5 push-ups, 10 push-ups, building your way up, right? Same thing with listening. If you want to become let's say 100% listener, you might be at 25% right now, which is again average. But the more you focus, whether it be with eye contact, not keeping eye contact with the person that's talking, not texting, not emailing, keeping your phone on silent, not looking at it while you're talking to somebody. Just again, putting yourself completely in that moment and giving all of your undivided attention, eyes, ears, mind, body, everything to that person that you're communicating with. And the more you do it, the easier it'll get, and eventually you'll get to that 100% level. But we know that if we do 100 push-ups and then all of a sudden we stop doing it for a while, that 100 drops back down, right? You can't stay there unless you continue to work at it. And the same is held true with our listening. Just because you reach that 100% listening capacity at one point, if you stop listening, if you stop working that muscle, you're going to lose it. So if that's something you want, which is something I'm going to work towards as well, then you need to practice it whenever and wherever you can. If someone's talking to you, whether it be a customer, a family member, a friend, give them your undivided attention. I'm sure you'll actually learn more than you thought, or actually hear more than you thought you would ever before. And that means you have to listen, not just to respond. You have to listen for the sake of listening. And what that means is, instead of, if I was talking about, oh, the weather was just awful outside. It was thundering, it was storming, and people were, driving slowly because of the rain. And because of that rain, I got to work late. If I was telling that to my boss, they're already thinking, I'm late. He's late. He was late again. And they're hearing this, all they're thinking is excuse. This is the 5th time he's been late this year. And they are creating their response immediately then. I'm not saying that response may not be justified in the long run, but if you listen all the way through, there's a better chance you'll make a response that, 1, is more fitting to the statement or the question at hand, 2, doesn't have a chance of you contradicting them, and 3, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. And 3, just gives them a better feeling that you actually truly care about them and you're not just, going through the motions. But take that situation again, the boss is just going to reprimand right away as soon as they heard, like, oh, it was bad weather. But let's say, they cut them off, at the point where they say it's bad weather, and say, why were you late again? And they start going into that. But then the person was truly going to say, oh, it was bad weather out. I noticed, and they were going to finish it with saying, I noticed that your car windows were down. You should probably put them up. Completely different take on the scenario, right? And that boss is going to feel like a big, JA, because that person was just trying to help. I'm not saying that that person should be late, but what I am saying is you should at least listen to them and hear them out. So the 2 big things I'm taking away from this book and that I'm going to be working on is being more empathetic, in the sense that I want to have a yes and approach. I know there are times where I just shoot down, whether it be my partners, my friends, or some of the students' ideas. They're like, I have an idea, and I'm like, and I just automatically say the answer is probably no. I can only imagine how that makes them feel. Like, it probably shows that I don't care and I actually don't want to hear what they have to say, what they have to think. And that's not very considerate of me. And I know that's not something I'd want to have happen to me if the tables were reversed. So I'm going to work on that. I'm not saying I'm going to accept every idea, but I'm at least going to hear it out. So I'm going to take a yes and to hear out during the brainstorming, the creative process. But I will still take the final say if that is my position at that point in time. The other thing would be then is the listening. Again, I see those as one and the same to some extent. If I don't just shoot them down, if I actually hear them out, I'm going to use that focus. I'm going to use that listening. With the listening, I'll take it a step further again, putting myself into that situation. I'm going to dive in entirely because it's only right, it's only fair, it's only how I should treat people. So those are my 2 big takeaways. Those are the 2 things I'm be working on that in person and for myself. The listening part will definitely be a little easier, I think, because it follows in suit with that gratitude journal I've been hosting. So if I go with the idea that everything, I should be grateful for what they have to say and what they're contributing, both in words, thoughts, and actions, then I'll be more keen to actually want to do it. And if I want to do it, then there'll be a better chance that I'll actually make it happen. So those are the 2 things I'll be working on from this book, is listening, and listening truly and fully, not just to respond, and to not just shoot down ideas, to yes and it, to see what comes from it. So again, good, by all means, a book that you should read. It's definitely makes you think. It's got a different take on things. It goes from this, I would categorize it into like a creativity concept, but it does bring a new sense to what you're looking at. It meshes 2 worlds that most times people don't consider can be together, which is the arts and business. Most people don't consider how something like drama and theater could fall into how businesses are ran and how they run and the operations within it. I mean, I'm sure you're not doubting the fact that a theater is a business, but you probably don't think about how the improv, the warm-ups they do, the drills, activities they make, the ensembles they create can actually be identical or formulaic in helping a business succeed as well. So if that's something you're looking for, this book does deliver. I wouldn't say it was the most catching book for me, but it could just be, again, it was a different sense, different take, and something I'm not necessarily used to. But it did get my mind thinking, and it wasn't dull. It was, I read through it, I enjoyed it. It won't be something I would read again in a moment or a snap, but I did read it, I did enjoy it, and I did think it was a good book, and I did learn some lessons from it. So I'd recommend it. I'd probably say a 7 out of 10. If you're looking for it, again, I'm sure local libraries have it. If not, in the show notes, I'll have the link to purchase as well, just like always. Next couple books I'll be looking at will be by Rachel Cruz. I'm getting a couple of her money ones, as well as a different creativity one, relationship-based one. The author escapes my mind, but I'll be putting that out soon. So next one coming at you will be money finance-based, so looking forward to that. As always, thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next week.